Phew. And here we go again. Literally, here we go again, Mace.
Yeah, I mean, if you saw the topic of the show, we're talking about here we go again with a hamstring injury for a key Broncos player who had
The same one.
3 hamstring injuries last year.
So
this
if
is
we
now
do,
number 4.
Here we go again. That means you're David Coverdale and I'm Tawny Katan.
But we're not on our own. You know, and it wasn't it Catane, not Catan.
Something.
Yes. Going down the only road I've ever known, like a drifter, I was born to walk alone.
Yes.
But I've made up my mind. I ain't wasting no more time.
Waste some more time.
So here we go again.
Here we do go again. It is Orange and Blue today. We are presented by Sean Ponda, Cecil Lammey, Andrew Mason, and Greg Dulcich is down again. A hamstring, several weeks. It has people saying they should make a trade. It has people saying, look at the waiver wire. It has people just up in arms, Mace, because Russell Wilson talked about it. Sean Payton talked about it. Greg Dulcich was going to be a big part of what they wanted to do.
Yeah, he was the joker when we heard about that in OTAs, a player that you could move around, have some versatility with, create some mismatches in space. Well, once you traded Albert Okwuegbunam to the Philadelphia Eagles, he was kind of the only joker left, right? And now, no joker, at least in the short term. And I say short term here, the history of Greg Dulcich's hamstring means this is probably not as quick a return as Jerry Jeudy potentially is having here. Could be back on Sunday, which would be 3.5 weeks post hamstring injury. After everything of last year, probably looking at a lot more caution on Greg Dulcich.
Yes, caution, and that would mean, here we go with our semantics, but we're very specific about this. I'm expecting several weeks, Mace.
And that is like several, as in several and 7 have the same root word, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm expecting this one to be a while. When's our bye week?
The bye week is week
9.
9.
9 times. Okay.
Yes,
is he back before the bye week? I'm not sure he will be.
So you're aiming for Buffalo.
Yeah.
Week 10.
Yeah. And that's it's just week 1. We're entering week 2. So now you've got to figure it out without Greg Dulcich. Something that you and I hope they can.
Yeah. You almost wonder if you're looking for a bigger target. I mean, do you think about maybe having Lil Jordan Humphrey line up a little more and be that big target in space? A bigger wide receiver? Because right now, I don't think Nate Adkins, the rookie out of South Carolina, I don't think that's his skill set right now. Chris Manhertz is mainly a blocker, and Adam Troutman, we kind of saw it there on that third down late. He can catch the ball, and he can get you a few yards in space, but he's not that dynamic presence who can discombobulate and turn a short gain into a long one. I mean, in this offense, if there are going to be explosive plays, they're going to happen with yardage after the catch, yardage after contact. Greg Dulcich can make somebody miss. Albert O could make somebody miss. We saw that in the preseason finale. At the tight end position now, who's the guy that's going to make somebody miss in the open field?
Yeah, they're going to have to mix things up a little bit for the Broncos if their tight ends are going to continue doing that. And with Adam Troutman, he reminds me so much of Samaje Perine, where it's like, he's good, he's solid, he's not going to make explosive plays.
Yeah, it's not his skill set. That's okay. But right now you're missing that skill set. In a tight end room, you want to have a blocker, you want to have a real good pass catcher who can be dynamic in space, and then somebody who's somewhere in between. And Dulcich was that player in between, and now you don't have anybody in reserve. Look, I wrote right after the preseason finale the Broncos should keep Albert O. And part of it was just how well Albert O was playing. He showed signs that he was turning a corner. But part of it was, if you want a dynamic element in the offense, something happens to Dulcich. And again, he's got the history of hamstring injuries. Last year, hamstring injury in OTAs. Hamstring injury recurs in training camp. Hamstring injury happens at the end of the season. He ends up missing 7 games. But that second injury, he was basically sidelined 2 months. from when he aggravated it until when he returned.
Yes. And that's why if you rush him back now, it could extend it longer. So be very cautious, I would say.
Yeah, throw some caution.
Throw some caution to the wind. All we are is dust in the wind. I close my eyes.
Only for a moment, and the moment's gone.
Exactly.
The moment was gone in week 1 for the Broncos. Now they're 0-1.
I close my eyes and then open them, and the Broncos have lost to the Raiders.
For a 7th consecutive time.
Okay.
Are you handling that well? It doesn't seem like you are.
It doesn't seem, it comes and goes. I'm better when I'm around you, Mace.
Well, the thing is, I mean, I don't have the same emotional attachment to it. So.
But I'm not a Broncos fan. I know some people take issue with that. I don't think neither one of us should be fans. And for my soapbox moment, I don't think any analyst should be a fan. But like, I believe in Sean Payton so much. And to see it out there like that, and to see the good and to see the bad and take them both, and there you have.
The facts of life.
Yes.
The facts of week 1. The facts of an 0-1 team.
The facts of, here we go again.
The facts of maybe a team that is in the midst of the R word, even though they won't say it.
Rebuild.
Yeah. And this is part of the process. And it's not going to be a straight incline. There are going to be ups and downs. There are going to be peaks and valleys. You're going to take 3 steps forward. Sometimes you're going to take 3 steps back. That's probably coming over the next couple of months. You just hope that at the end of the season, in terms of going somewhere, you're in a better spot long-term than you were at the start, right? That if you finish 7-10, you've at least taken some steps forward that will get you closer to where you want to go in the future.
Right.
And hey, maybe things work out. Look, you could say the Broncos got a break last night, even though you never root for injury. The Broncos got a break last night when Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles. Because now the Jets come in week 5, a game that I think a lot of people had the Broncos losing. And they could still lose. They lost to the Jets with Zach Wilson at quarterback last year, although that was one of Brett Rippon's 2 starts in place of Russell Wilson.
Right.
But it's not like the Jets are a guaranteed win for the Broncos, but your chances of winning that game went up. And if Zach Wilson can't bring it for the Jets, even with their defense, that's not going to be a team that potentially contends for a playoff spot. So if that's what happens, then you can cross the Jets off the list as a contender. And then that's another window maybe for the Broncos to get in and be that 9-8 team that gets into the playoffs.
And for these teams that are crossed off the list as contenders, like, you got to get those W's. It's so close. I think that's where my emotion comes from, is like, you want them to push for the playoffs, Mace, but in these close games, you got to get those close wins. You can't have these close losses because of your mistakes.
Well, that's been a problem for the Broncos for 6 years. You can go on denversports.com and read about it. Nobody has more one-score losses since 2017 than your Denver Broncos. Nobody has more close losses since 2021 than your Denver Broncos. 5-15 since the start of the 2021 season in one-score games. 5-15. This is what Sean Payton is talking about. He talks about how most of your games in the NFL are close games. And hey, 20 of the last 35 Broncos games, one-score games. And they're coming up short. So what that tells you is they've got some elements, but they don't have enough to finish. That's where deficiencies at the quarterback position come into play, and why you're trying to get Russell Wilson back to where he was, because that's the thing that's going to make a difference in some of these games. Now, you can look at Sunday specifically and point to other things. You can say, oh, Damari Mathis, they targeted him. He gave up some big plays. Oh, Philip Dorsett stepped out of bounds. Oh, there were all these penalties. The failed onside kick on the opening kickoff. Oh, Will Lutz misses a long field goal, 55-yarder. It's basically a 50-50 shot, and PAT. You can point to all these things. But ultimately, what is going to allow you to overcome those things? It's usually having a difference maker at quarterback. And you're trying to figure out if that's Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
That's what this season's about.
And the conversation about elevating people, before we move on to stop blaming Russ, leave Russ alone. Wes asked, how come they don't take a look at O.J. Howard? Because he's washed? I mean, and also you need a weapon. And Howard, I think, coming out of college, obviously had a first-round grade on him with Evan Ingram, and that was the Jake Butt year, if I'm not mistaken. Like, yeah, he fell into that trap like a Mercedes Lewis, like a Daniel Graham, where it's like, hey, you can block. You're going to be a great blocker now. So your receiving weapons at tight end, because it is a weapon in today's NFL, they're not going to be out there and readily available. Even guys that are developing long shots like a Tyree Jackson. I'm getting super deep, Mace, but like what the Broncos would need to replace Dulcich isn't going to be available minus some sort of trade.
Yeah. And I don't think that's something that's reasonably on the table right now as a trade, at least for somebody who can change the arc of what you're going to expect from that position. OJ Howard, I mean, I had high hopes for him when he came into the NFL.
I did too. We saw him at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, and it just never materialized. Like you said, he kind of got pigeonholed as a blocker. And then when he gets Tom Brady to work with and you're thinking, oh, all sorts of mismatches for Tampa Bay in 2020, he suffered an injury 4 games into the season. And then last year with Houston really wasn't all that dynamic and explosive anymore. He's not the same player post-injury as he was. He got injured right around the same time as Courtland Sutton. It's a little bit of the same thing. Not quite the same as they were before. I mean, even Sutton on Sunday, still not getting separation the way you need him to.
Yeah. And entering his second year, Wes also asks, is Dulcich a bust? I don't ever count injured players as busts.
Nor do I. Kijana Carter, way back, not a bust. He got injured in his first preseason, the number 1 overall pick in 1995 of the Bengals. When you're injured, not a bust.
Right.
That's why Monte Ball, it was an injury, but it was alcoholism, not a bust.
Right.
That's a
disease.
That's a condition, a disease that he was dealing with.
And Brian asking Lucas Kroll, can't be that Joker? We're getting a couple of Kroll. I like that our audience knows that, by the way. A lot of audiences be like, who else is there?
But
like,
that's a heck of a leap for a guy who was deemed expendable and landed on your practice squad.
Right.
That's the thing.
More of a long shot, developmental, see what you got type of thing. And tight end takes a long time. And sometimes they just don't work out. Eric Swoop comes to mind. I'm digging deep again, but that was a University of Miami basketball player that the Broncos worked out first. They were the first team on him. Didn't sign here. The Colts got him, kept him for what, like 5 years? He didn't do anything.
I'll tell you what, that I remember telling a friend when the Broncos were head towards 5-11 in 2017, and thus they had a really high waiver claim because once you get beyond 3 weeks into the season, your waiver claim position is based on your record, worst teams first, and the Broncos were sitting there at like 3-9. I'm thinking, okay, let's take this high waiver claim for a spin. And I had a list of 5 guys that I would try to claim off other practice squads right then and there and sign to the 53. Actually, that wouldn't be a waiver claim. That'd just be, okay, we put guys on IR, we promote some guys. You know who one of them was? A guy who's still playing today and playing pretty well, Mo Alley Cox, former basketball player at VCU, which does not have a football program. VCU nickname?
Oh,
come on. They made the Final Four 12 years ago.
I can't remember.
Good basketball program.
Can't remember.
The Rams.
VCU
Rams. The Virginia Commonwealth University Rams.
Okay.
Yeah.
My mind was stuck on Cavaliers, but that's the wrong Virginia.
That's University of Virginia, yes.
I love the way you say Virginia.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Virginia. Come on.
It's only weird if you make it weird. It's orange and blue today.
There has to be something left in me from when I lived there. I was born there. I lived there for 11 years. You know, it'll come out that way. That's, the way people talk there.
That's it.
Virginia.
That's nice. I like it.
Not Virginia.
Virginia is what I say. Okay. Stop blaming Russ is our next topic, because you and I have heard enough, dude. I turn on the fan and people, oh, Russ, can he elevate? Like, what he's supposed to do in the Joe Lombardi, Sean Payton offense is what he was doing, and he was doing it well. He was staying on time mostly. He wasn't holding on to the ball too long mostly. He was using his legs when he needed to mostly. Was it perfect? No. Now the argument then becomes, does Russell Wilson need to be perfect for the Broncos to win? Yeah, kind of. But Mace, after going over the film, watching this game live, and you're at the stadium, I'm at a public appearance in Thornton, but like watching this game live, it's much different than when you get to watch the All-22. And when you see what Russ was asked to do, when you see the way guys were open, on that first play, there were 3 open guys. Like Russ made the decision to go to Brandon Johnson, who was the deepest target. I believe Sutton was underneath him, and then there was a back, probably Javonte on that same side. But these sale concepts from the New Orleans Saints, from Sean Payton, we already know But don't expect the moon balls. Don't expect big, explosive, down the field passes. This is dink and dunk 101. But when Russ is doing that and he's doing it well, why do people blame him for doing what he's supposed to be doing in this offense? Hey, Russ, why weren't you running the offense? Like, are we really at that point with Russell Wilson?
Yeah, I mean, if you go through the starting quarterbacks on Sunday, Russell Wilson, or this weekend, pardon me, and actually we'll throw in Zach Wilson as well because he played basically the entire game last night for the Jets. The only quarterbacks who had a lower average depth of target than Russell Wilson's 5.0 yards were Zach Wilson, 4.6, Justin Fields, 3.6, Desmond Ridder, 3.2. But that's the offense. It's dink, it's dunk. As when you get shell coverage, it's take what's there. Get used to the phrase, you can't go broke taking a profit, even if it's a small profit, right? That's going to be a lot of this offense. Asking Russell Wilson to not try to jam it downfield, but to take that quick read, take what's there, and move on to the next play and keep the line moving. The length of the possessions, 2 8-minute drives, tells you that this is working, right?
Right.
Now, okay, why the Broncos only have 6 possessions then? They only had 6 possessions because the Raiders were extending their drives too.
The Raiders had long drives.
Which is a discussion for the defense, because everything good that we can say about the Broncos on a per-possession basis on offense, we can say badly on the defensive side. They could not get the Raiders off the field. And the Broncos had a 3-and-out on offense. The Broncos defense did not force a 3-and-out. And that was killer. In the end, that was the difference.
Yes.
Another thing that was the difference. You can point to all these things, and if you flip them, the result is different. But that's the nature of a 1-point loss. It's not just Will Lutz. Everyone's ticked at Will Lutz. It's not just him. There were a bunch of things, right? It's like the playoff game 10 years ago, Denver versus Baltimore, January 2013. Yeah, Raheem Moore gets the blame, for letting Jacoby Jones behind him. But there were other things too.
Nobody says Elvis Dumervil couldn't get around Bryant McKinney, who was a backup.
Nobody says
Tony Carter doesn't even touch Jacoby.
Peyton Manning picked off in overtime. A little bit of miscommunication with Brandon Stokely there.
Right.
Couldn't get a running first down late. 1 first down would have done it. They couldn't get it done. They had to punt.
That was poor Ronnie. Rest in peace.
Yeah. Matt Prater misses a kick because he's been terrific all year, but his cleat catches the field and he misses. Champ Bailey beaten deep after him having a great season. I mean, all of these things.
And I think that was the best Peyton Manning team.
It was the most balanced Peyton Manning team. That was the only Peyton Manning team that was a true 3-phaser. Terrific on offense, defense, special teams. To 2015, the offense, let's face it, the offense was average, pedestrian.
At best.
Defense was phenomenal. Special teams was top 10 in 2015. The best all-around team of the Peyton Manning era was the first one.
Yep. 2013 was all about that offense.
Yeah.
All about that offense.
Special teams was fading and the defense got gassed as time went on. And was banged up. That was the other thing. Defense that year got really banged up.
D-Rock.
D-Rock. I almost said deep bag. Like I couldn't quite read it even with my glasses.
D-Rock.
D-Rock says the Broncos do have a problem with closing out the game. Coffee is for closers. Put that coffee down. Yes. And that brings us to 4-minute defense. You've heard, about the 2-minute drill. It's also the 4-minute drill. The 4-minute drill is when on offense, you're trying to close it out. And on defense, you're trying to get the ball back because your opponent is trying to close them out. And you know what? The last few years, as well as the Broncos defense has played, generally speaking, their 4-minute defense has been lacking.
Yeah.
And still is.
So what is the best defense for the Denver Broncos? And we've had some suggestions about some of the younger guys playing, or Drew Sanders specifically, but more of Matt Henningsen. Like, yes, please do something that works, change it up, mix it up. And if that's going with more exotic schemes and blitzes, more of that as well, although it seemed like VJ was trying a bit of that.
Well, there was a blitz on the scramble at the end. He brought 6. And the thing is, if you're going to...
But does Sanders catch him there when Josie didn't?
Maybe, but Drew Sanders also got me in the right position.
Which he might not be, and Josie will be.
Right. That's another key thing there. So it's not as simple as saying, oh, Drew Sanders would have got him. Not necessarily, because as we saw watching Drew Sanders over the summer, he plays with a lot of energy, but still, like many rookies, he's learning where he needs to be. But you mentioned Matt Henningsen, and it makes me think about just the overall defensive line rotation. Elijah Garcia, 7 snaps. Matt Henningsen, 9 snaps. Then you get up to Mike Purcell, 21 snaps. DJ Jones, 35 snaps. Jonathan Harris, 39 snaps. Zach Allen, 53 snaps. Okay? Maybe, and I know Zach Allen is obviously the alpha and omega, and certainly the paycheck he's got says he's your top guy there. But right now, nobody looks like a world beater up front in terms of the pass rush. They did well against the run. They were very stout. So this is where I'd say, okay, let's try to make up for not having an elite level talent in that group, having some good players, but not an elite level talent. Let's make up for that by rotating liberally and keeping everybody fresh.
Right.
And so, yeah, I would like to see more than 9 snaps for Henningsen, more than 7 snaps for Garcia.
And that's surprising about Garcia's snaps, because he was in on some plays. Like when he was in, you noticed that he was in. So a little bit more. And I asked you yesterday, I guess I'll ask again, like, is it just a trust thing with Sean Payton and the young guys? Like trusting them where they're going to be in the right spot? Because some of the young guys were doing good things in very, very limited snaps.
I think it's not just that, but I also think it's part of the 4-game evaluation to which Sean Payton has referred, that you're using these 4 games to kind of figure out what you have. You don't have 4 preseason games anymore. You have 3, and now you basically mailed that last sucker in because you're not playing your starters. So it's 2 preseason games, even if you are playing your starters. So at this point, you're learning about what you have roster-wise. Mm-hmm. But I'd like to see a little more of those guys. And I expect we probably will in the future.
I hope so. Mike asks if we ever get tired of looking for the positive. I don't want to be negative. And it's not about being, just wide-eyed and orange glasses about like the positive, but there are positives. You wrote about it at denversports.com. There are positives from this loss. It sucks. It's emotional. The Raiders stink and the Broncos lost and it was supposed to be different and all these sorts of things. None of that is untrue. But I'll tell you something else that's not true. This team has positives to look for. Did I get that right? That's not untrue.
Not untrue. It's a double negative. The double negative is proof positive. You ever see Clue, the movie?
Yes.
Yes. That's a fantastic movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Your double negative is proof positive. There's some great quotable lines in there, but it's a movie for nerds, basically. So
guess what we are?
Yeah. Anyhow, it's not about being positive as opposed to being negative. I'm a realist, okay? But here's the thing. What is the point of just sitting here and complaining, blah, 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 everything sucks, yada, yada, yada? Let's just curl into the fetal position and sob if that's the case. No. We want to sit here and say, okay, these are potential solutions. Now, sometimes the solutions may not be ideal. We opened the show talking about Greg Dulcich. There's not an ideal solution there, unfortunately. That's the corner into which you're backed in right now. And you can't untrade Albert Okwuegbunam. He's a Philadelphia Eagle. He's not walking back through that door. So you have to adapt some things. Maybe it's going to be getting Jaleel McLaughlin out there more to kind of have a dynamic element in space. But we try to focus on solutions to the issues, whether they're short or long term, rather than just sitting here and just complain, blah, 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 blah. Everything sucks. Everything's miserable. The team, it's one game. The season's over. It's one game. The season is not freaking over. I know everybody is down, that they've had 6 consecutive losing seasons. You're in the rut. Believe me, I grew up a Tampa Bay Bucks fan when they had 14 consecutive losing seasons. I know what this feels like, okay? So I get it. I understand why people are frustrated. We're trying to tell you, okay, there are ways out of it. But I understand why you out there feel the way you feel. I get it, Cecil, that this is how people perceive it. But if all we're doing is being an echo chamber and not saying, okay, well, here's where things could go long term, here's some potential ideas, then what good is this, right? I mean, there are plenty of other shows where they can just complain, and not offer solutions.
Or be super like ignorant and positive of like, everything's great, everything's awesome, everything's not awesome, but everything's not awful.
By the way, Nate says a negative plus a negative equals a positive. No, a negative plus a negative, if we're doing math, is a negative. It's a negative times a negative. That's a positive.
Okay.
All right. Come on. Y'all
the more you know.
Y'all remember your middle school, high school math. Come on. Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Well, I'm here for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're
Are we feeling any better out there? Is anybody feeling better?
Well, I like when Mace gets ranty, because I get ranty.
It's been building.
It's emotional.
You know, as Rick Pitino said when he was coaching the Boston Celtics, the negativity in this town sucks. It does.
And we get it. And it's a compilation. Like it's the last 7 years all on to 1 week of football.
Because
we expected it to be different.
different last year as well, and it wasn't different. I understand the frustration here. Yeah, have to let this play out. It's entirely possible that this loss is something that becomes a positive in the future. Look, the thing is, you're going to have your highs and your lows in a season, right? This was a low last week. Why can't next Sunday be a high? We'll get more into it as the week goes on.
Right.
I got a lot to say about Sam Howell, as you know, because I've been watching this dude for a long time.
You're going to play hero ball.
Yeah.
You're going to take advantage of that?
I think people are going to be saying something a lot different about the Broncos pass rush a week from now than they are in this game.
And that's why.
But Jimmy Garoppolo gets the ball out quickly. He's a rhythm and timing thrower. Gets it out fast. Right. That's his game. Sam Howell is a bit more like Russell Wilson has been in that he is buying time in the pocket, moving around. His receivers are breaking things off. He is trying to make a play. And sometimes he's trying to extend a play and make something out of nothing, which is what did keep Arizona in that game on Sunday, because he was trying to extend it in the backfield. It led to a strip sack, fumble, and a scoop and score the other way.
Yeah.
Sam Howell giveth and Sam Howell taketh away. The question is, which is it going to be more of? Is it going to be giveth to his team or taketh away from his Washington Commanders? That's going to have a lot to do with whether the Broncos can be 1-1. And frankly, what kind of pressure the Broncos can mount will also have a lot to do with that as well.
Very much so. And it's one of the reasons why we could be super negative and everything sucks and this is awful and Russ is terrible and Sean Payton's not going to work out or whatever. Or we could tell you logically and think critically about this team, because next week they look better. The narrative about this team will be completely different.
It will be, but some of the issues will still be the same. Look, it's when it's bad.
They'll always be there.
Okay. When it's bad, it's rarely as bad as it seems. I say rarely. Sometimes it is. 51-14 last year on Christmas. That was dreadful. Okay. And when it's going well, it's rarely going as well as it might seem. You could win 30-3, but there can be other things beneath beneath the surface. We try to go beneath the surface on this show. Mace almost did a William Shatner when explaining math. With the
negative times negative,
yes,
is a positive.
You pause for no apparent reason.
Mm-hmm. Pause
acting. Yes.
Are we done today?
Yeah, Edward Wright says, and I'll do it in my Shatner, I feel better now listening to you guys. I'm glad you feel better. I'm glad we're here for you.
Yes, we're here for all of you. We're here for each other.
Yeah.
And I just want
back
to
tomorrow.
say Virginia.
We'll be here again.
Not in Virginia.
No.
Say Virginia.
Virginia.
Oh, thank you.
Does that make you feel all warm and fuzzy when I say that?
It does. Makes me feel good.
I'm glad. I'm here to make you feel good. I'm here to make people laugh. As Millhouse Van Houten says, the world needs a clown.
There you go. He is Andrew Mason. Follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT is a BFD. We are presented by Sean Honda. And thank you for helping us grow the YouTube channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. Thank you to Matthew, our producer. He's Mace. I'm Cease. Stay tuned. And would you please, as always, stay frosty,